Welcome to Community Crypto on CoinDesk TV. I'm your host, Isaiah Jackson, and this week we are celebrating mothers, grandmothers, and women in the crypto space for the upcoming Mother's Day. I'm joined now by two amazing guests, including Olayinka Odeniran, founder of the Black Women Blockchain Council, and Tamara Fitzgerald, founder of Fitzgerald Finance. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Hi, Isaiah. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Glad to have you both. Absolutely. And quick disclaimer, this is not financial advice. I have to make sure we put that in there. And I'll start with you, Olayinka. We go back, a ways. Tell us a little bit about how you entered the crypto space and what led to creating the Black Women Blockchain.
Well, I entered the crypto space actually through the technology. I had a friend that introduced me to Bitcoin back when it was less than $1,000. And he was like, you need to get into it. You need to get into it. And because of my role at the time, I was a chief compliance officer for a financial firm. So it wasn't something that I could quickly jump into. So I eventually decided to dive deeper into what makes it tick, and fell in love with the technology. And since then, it's been a blockchain enthusiast ever since. And from there, I started being involved in the community, but didn't see a lot of people that look like me. And I wanted to make sure that in this technology, we do not get left behind. So I decided to create a space for Black women in this space and allow Black women to be able to tap in, be educated. And through BWBC, what we're doing is really providing education, awareness, and promoting Black women in this space too.
Absolutely. And Tamara, how did you get started in the space, and how did you get involved with the Black Women's Blockchain Council as well?
Well, for me, I actually started through a group on Clubhouse called Black Bitcoin Billionaires. And I got introduced to that group, and it was a space where they were speaking on the education and how important it is for you to get educated in the space. And the founder, two of the founders, actually, I guess I have to say thank you to you, Isaiah Jackson, being that you're one of the co-founders of the group. I didn't get a chance to meet you at that time, but I did get a chance to meet Lamar Wilson, and just his passion for this space and really pushing the education and their encouragement to do my own research. I began to find value here. And I also was then able to say, okay, I wanted more Black women as well that look like me. And by that time, Yinka had made her group, and I ended up following her, listening to her, and she was saying a lot of the same things, echoing how important education is for women that are like me. And I decided I had to get on board.
Oh, yeah. Amazing story there. And, one of the things I wanted to ask Olayinka is there are a number of groups focused on trying to bring more women in the crypto industry. Why is the council specifically for Black women needed?
Well, historically, when it comes to tech, we're the number one demographic that gets left behind, And so this time around, I wanted to make sure that we're tapped in from the early onset. As you know, the Black community is very much in this space. And one thing that we're doing is cultivating that community and educating a lot more people. So it was very important for me to be able to look to my right and my left and be able to see people that look like me, as well as the fact that I do have a 12-year-old daughter. I want her to be able to experience this space with her peers and be able to go through this whole process, knowing that she's not the only one or a few of individuals in this ecosystem that we're building.
Oh, yes, that's very important. Making sure that you pass it down to the kids. And Tamara, I wanted to ask you, some of the initiatives that are being taken with Black Women Blockchain Council to increase this education.
Well, our biggest initiative right now is actually the rolling out of our education platform, our STEM-based education platform. And so we plan to use that to help other women get educated in this space, especially young girls, because they are the ones that will be carrying this torch onward. And so we are actually, I'm sorry. We are linking with Consensus, who's helping to support us in that, and so that's going to be a really great opportunity for us to educate young women in STEM and specifically about the blockchain and about all things blockchain related.
Oh, yes. And let's stick with that subject there, because I think it's interesting that a lot of people in the space have information, but they don't necessarily think about teaching the kids. How can we get more middle school, high students, and college students even excited about crypto and Web 3.0?
I think that it's really important to meet them where they're at, right? So kids like things like gaming, and they're finding a lot of value in that space right now. And so there are games that are actually already utilizing a lot of the concepts that we find in the blockchain. So by building upon that, I think that that's a great way to reach children. I have a nephew, and I recently introduced him to a game that was he's able to build and save Bitcoin through the game, and he found it very interesting. And it was because he was already gaming. He actually came to ask me about money to get money for another game. And I said, you know what? Since you like gaming, check this out, and you can actually add this to your game. And guess what? These are coins you can actually turn into real money. And he was really psyched about that. He's like, so I can use these to get my Robux money. And I was like, yeah, you sure can. And so he got excited about that, and he came back a few days later and told me how he'd still been playing it and he's still saving. And so I think that it's really important to meet them where they're at with things that already interest them.
So, Olayinka, how have you ways to educate kids as well in this space?
Yeah, I just finished onboarding ninth graders into this space. They were really interested in NFTs and creating and being able to mint their NFT onto the blockchain. So I work with a DAO Academy, organization that is in Michigan, and was able to introduce them to Solana blockchain and get their NFTs minted onto their own personal marketplace built off of the Holoplex platform. And so the kids were very much interested. Some of them are already veterans. They already had wallets, but I was able to help them open up a Solana wallet and get them introduced to that particular chain and be able to fund some of their wallets as they're onboarding or minting their NFTs and going through that process. The goal is to make sure that they are aware of the different type of chains that are out there that they can utilize for any particular reasons that they want.
Absolutely. And in light of Mother's Day, I have to ask, Orange Field, your mother or grandmother or women in your family?
Oh, yes. I'm currently working on my mother right now. I'm currently working on my mother, as I said, and it's a fun time, because mothers are the ones that are supposed to teach you. And so sometimes it could be a little bit of a challenge to be like, Mom, but I know about this thing that you need to know about. And I know you're so used to teaching me, but let me teach you something. But she's very open. And the biggest part of this of doing your own research, I'm finding that I have to do a little more hand holding to get her into the research. But the more she's finding out about it, the more she's asking questions. And that is really important when it comes to this space, asking questions. And so you can get answers. And so I have a lot of hope for my mother.
Yeah. So for me, my mom has already been made aware. She's been asking me quite a few times to, purchase her some Bitcoin. So what she don't know is that she already has some. So I'll be surprising her with that. And as a mother myself, my daughter is interested in this space. I've done a lot with her, onboarding her and trying to get her acclimated to the different type of use cases that are out there. And, with kids being involved in some of the games that already have that tokenization built into it, it's easier to translate what they're doing with gaming into what we're building right now with this ecosystem. So she's very much interested. As long as she can make money, she's good.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask about the recent Bitcoin conference. We had some complaints about harassment. How do you think we can solve this going forward so that it's not an issue at all?
Well, I wasn't at the conference, but I know Tam was at the conference. I think, overall in the space when it comes to harassment, it's something that's not just synonymous with this space. It happens everywhere. But I think with more and more women being involved in this space, we will start to see that there's a demand for decorum, in places like this. So I'm hoping that by onboarding more women, we start to see guys behave, appropriately, and realize that it's not just a tech bro space, but women are also involved and we're adding value to this space. I know that's like a high level overview, but it takes time. It has improved more than 2018 with some of the initiatives that are being put. I know this time around, the conference planners were more focused on making sure that the voices of women were heard. And I think as we move along, we're going to start seeing a lot more movement and involvement with women in this space, and things will start to change.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that. I think that the more women that you actually bring into the space is going to create an environment where women are celebrating the space, and then that behavior becomes it becomes more evident, first of all, for the people who are behaving this way, right? And then it becomes more evident to other people that this behavior is not okay. Because when you have more women just gathered together, there tends to be a more of a I guess we kind of watch out for each other a lot more, So if you add more women to the mix of what you're doing here in the space, it's automatically going to create more safety for women.
Absolutely. And Tamara, do you think this industry has a chance to be more diverse and inclusive than the legacy financial system?
Oh, absolutely. Like without question, namely because of the self-sovereignty aspect of this space, right? That everyone, it's as long as you can understand it, as long as you educate yourself, you can come into it, right? And so me being that a person that is looked at as XYZ, fill in the blank of whatever you want to call me as, right? It won't matter because I'll be able to find my community here more easily. And there'll be more people that'll be onboarded like me simply because I came into the space. I think that those of us who have found ourselves a part of the marginalized communities can actually find more a community here in the space, because it's not about what you look like. It's not about, where you came from. It's about how you can learn and who you can connect with on a level that is way different than what we see here in our physical, like financial systems and things that we've experienced before.
Right. And Olayinka, have you seen sort of the same thing? Do you think we can solve the diversity inclusion problem in this system?
Oh, definitely. Us women, the whole goal is to make sure that there's more of us in this space and that we're participating. And we can't leave diversity and inclusion to just, the early onset onboarders, right? We have to be able to jump in and participate and be willing to be an advocate for diversity and do our part in doing that. And that's what we've been doing with BWBC. We wanted to show, one, that we're here, two, that we're actively and consciously adding or onboarding more women into this space that are Black, as well as others, and participating in the space and letting people know that we're here and we're not going to leave, right? And we're seeing viability in the technology as well as the different type of use cases. So it's a conscious effort by all of us to be actively participating and realize that we have a chance to build something new. And this space that we're building definitely needs to be inclusive, because as somebody once told me, the data is decentralized, and so therefore diversity should be a number one goal of the space.
Absolutely. And let's jump into our favorite subject, regulations. How can BWBC work with regulators to ensure they continue the innovation we've seen so far?
Well, I think that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tim.
No, go ahead, Yinka. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, by lending our voices, we're working with Cleve Messador. We just did a DC rally just to show that there's black and brown faces here in this space as well. So oftentimes when Senate hearings are going on, you see other people who are in front of the senators. And it's time that black and brown people be represented as well, because this space is being built really by everyone, and everyone should be represented when we're standing in front of senators and lending our voices to why this space is important to us and what we're bringing. So, every effort that we can do, we definitely are part of the political movements and pushing to educate senators and onboard them into the space and give them a little bit more information, because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I'm not sure if it's intentional or unintentional, but it has been circulating, and where our part is to make sure that the right type of information gets out there. And we love working with Cleve in her efforts to make that push and write the right policies.
And Tamara, you can interact with the regulators to increase innovation, so to say.
Well, from a personal level, definitely echoing everything that Yinka said, it's going to come from them knowing that we're here, first of all. And so the creation of groups like ours is very important, but also them being willing to listen. So on a personal level, I'm doing things like I'm writing my congressperson to let them know that, hey, there are people like me, and where do you stand on these different issues when it comes to cryptocurrencies and it comes to regulation of the space, to let them know that somebody is here and that we are listening and that we are watching to see how their adoption of this space will be, and whether or not, me as a voter, whether or not you'll have my vote, because this is an issue that is really important to me. So I just encourage other people like me to do the same thing. Write your senators, write your Congress people, go attend your local meetings, and make your voice heard.
Absolutely. And we've had a lot of progress thus far. And I want to ask Olayinka, what's the future hold for BWBC and women in crypto?
Wow, the future. It's actually seeing more women jump into this space as blockchain devs. As Tam mentioned earlier, that we're partnering up with Consensus in order to fulfill an initiative that we both decided to work towards, which is to increase the number of Black women blockchain dev to 500,000 by the year 2030. With rolling out this program, we're hoping to start spearheading that initiative and making sure that we do get more Black women involved. Because right now, being involved in this space and being able to participate with the different type of use cases, that's good, but there's more to be built with the technology. And I really want our people to roll up our sleeves and get involved in building.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to see that progress going forward. I want to thank you both for coming today, discussing women in the crypto industry of Mother's Day this week. Thank you both.
Thank you very much, Isaiah.
And that's it for this episode of Community Crypto. I'm your host, Isaiah Jackson, and every week we're building a global community with local crypto groups. So be sure to tune in every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on CoinDesk TV. See you then.